But around 18 months ago, Mike contacted me with this great idea. So we met for coffee. But what he didn't know was I also had this great idea. So he announced his idea, and his idea was, I'm a developer. I write software every day. I build the same web apps every single day, and I repeat the same processes every single day. I'm just frustrated. I can't do this no more. And his idea was to create a platform which allowed him to build web applications really quickly, but also remove away all the grunt work at the beginning. But I said, Mike, I've got a better idea, a bigger idea. I can't code. I can build static websites, but I can't code. And I think we should build a platform which allows me to be able to build all these awesome web applications. So instead of serving the 0.5% of the world, which are developers, let's serve the 99.5% of the world, which are not developers. Bigger market, hopefully, well, more money. So we sort of met in the middle and went, okay, we'll build a low-code platform. And we got to work with that. Mike got to work developing it, and I got to work putting up a website. And later, Martin came on board, and he came on board as our CTO and also our co-founder. And we were able to execute a lot quicker then on the product. And as you know, with any journey, you find insights in conversations that you have with, people who have a problem, whether it be they can't code or they need to code faster. And we started leaning towards the no code side of things because we found that majority of our signups, their biggest problem was I can't code or I can't build a web app of some sort. Funny enough, actually, we got a lot of developers coming in who said, actually, I can code, but I just can't build a backend because I'm a front end developer. And others saying, oh, I can't build front ends because I'm a backend developer. But ultimately, coding was hard. So we are still building the platform today. We've had 15,000 signups from PwC, Deloitte, Philips, Formula One, Swiss, the whole lot, which is quite exciting. We launched into beta around 4 weeks ago. We've had really good reception. We've had around 1,600 downloads. I think it was 1,600 and something, Mike. As you can tell, the number is constantly changing, so it could be 1,700 as we speak. But the number of apps created, Mike, what was that number? Sorry.
It was nearly 1,500.
And the number of apps deployed is
nearly 300. I think it just went.
I know Mike was working on this just before we had this call, so he's going to be the person who has the most up-to-date figures. But, the conversion rate of people signing up and actually creating applications is absolutely incredible. And more importantly, we have been using NPS as a way to measure product market fit. And if you don't know what NPS is, it's a scale from -100 to 100. Not is seen as good, and we're currently measuring around 25, and we're still in beta. Going forward, we will hope to move out of beta and publicly launch in mid-January. And right now, the web apps produced with Budibase are not backwards compatible. So that we should have that resolved within a week or two. But ultimately, we need to get people on the platform to see what they like, what they didn't like, and how we can build a platform which people love. So was that a good intro?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I like the way you teed each other up. That was great. Yeah, immense.
I sort of threw him in at the deep end there, didn't I?
I just made the numbers up.
Well, you called us. Like, they sounded impressive. So, yeah, I'll take them. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, feel free now to just share your screen or whoever's going to do that. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing the platform.
Yeah, I can do a quick demo so I can.
Great.
I'll just share the screen. I'm just going to move you over to a different screen so I can use the bigger screen to present Budibase.
Sure. And it'd be great in this as well, if you could just touch on like how someone should get started using Budibase. What's some sort of best practice for getting started in the tool? But yeah, feel free to do that after the demo as well. If that's yeah,
No.
too much. Yeah.
I think that's a good, maybe a good platform to start with. So if you're looking to use Budibase, the first thing to do is to go to our website and download it, which is where we come to our first differentiator, is that we're a local development platform. So you build applications locally and not in the cloud like other builders. So once you've downloaded it, I would advise you to go to our docs, which are on docs.budibase.com, and just follow the tutorial and dig deeper into the other docs as well if you get stuck. But ultimately, we try to build a platform which is intuitive and simple to use. So hopefully, if you download it, you can get going with it pretty easily and without much help. But the help is there if you need it. Also, we communicate a lot on Discord. So if you do run into any issues, just head on over to our Discord, which I do not know the URL, but I can share in the comments after this. And also, we use GitHub discussions. We're on their beta program. So if you need to ask a question or raise an issue, please go to your GitHub and simply just communicate there. Another important fact is that we're open source, so you can access your code, and you will soon be able to self-host Budibase as well, which is important for people who are concerned where their data goes, and are also concerned around extensibility and technical debt. But let's begin. So today we will build a simple CRM. That sounds like a good tool. It's one of the most common requests from signups. And it's a pretty common tool across multiple businesses. So we'll start with that. We will call it CRM. We'll add an FI at the end because that seems to be trendy at the minute. And we will just simply add our first user. And we add that first user because we're building private apps for now. And if you don't add a user now, you'll never be able to log into your app, right? So after creating and initializing your app, you're provided with this blank screen with this slight text here, which tells you to basically create a table. And to create a table, you click on this plus symbol. And it's incredibly easy. You give your table a name. So we'll call this one deals. And currently with Budibase, you can create tables from scratch, or you can upload data via a CSV. Now, in the immediate future, we will look to build on that, and we will allow users to load data from external sources. That's in the immediate roadmap. So I'm just going to add this, and I'm just going to upload our deals CSV. So once we uploaded CSV, Budibase is smart. It understands the different data types within a CSV so that you can quickly change them on upload. For example, I'm going to change value to number. Down here, we can also set our display column, which is important when it comes to relationships. And that's our table uploaded. As you can see, it's sort of like modeled around a spreadsheet, sort of Airtable-y. Before we had it slightly different, but we went with this UI because a lot of people are just used to spreadsheets. Now, it is a database, but people are used to spreadsheets. And it's also what we found, it's quite nice to be able to see your data. And you can play around with this as well. And you can filter and you can create new columns and create new rows. But what I'm going to do right now is just create another table called context. That's it. I'll go with that. And that's it done. It just takes 2 seconds to upload a CSV. Right now, you can upload a CSV with, I think it's 1,000 records, or is it, Martin? Was it 1 megabyte?
1 megabyte.
1 megabyte, sorry. 1 megabyte. Yes, that's correct, yes. And I'm just going to create another table here, and just to show you like how to create a table without actually uploading the CSV. I'm going to call this, we'll call this team. And we'll create one without actually uploading the CSV. And we'll create a new column. And our first column will be name. And what we're going to do here is add our sales team. And we'll create another new column. And we'll call this, we'll want to actually link our team to our deals, right? So if there's a deal comes in, you want to say, it's this salesperson looking after it. So we'll call this deals. And we'll set the type as relationship. We will choose deals. And we'll simply click say column. And now we have to actually add data to our table. We've set it up. It's a very simple structure, right? It's just 2 columns, but at the same time, it gives you an idea of how to add columns and how to add rows, which is important. So we'll go with Joe, and we'll set Joe. I'll actually set Joe as none for now, and then I'll go back into my other table and then add it there. So you can see how to edit a record as well. So we'll go Max. And we'll go with Marty. And we're just going to go into deals here. And if I click edit here, you'll see at the very bottom, there's a team label, and we can select multiple, or you can just select one. But now we can link these quite easily. I'll just continue to finish this for all our records. And there we go. That's us done. And what you'll be able to do now is you can go back to team, for example, and you can see how many rows are related to that individual salesperson. And if you click into this here, you can see in more detail which of the deals are actually linked to that salesperson. And you can keep on diving into that deeper and deeper. One other thing I want to show you, and it's an important aspect of Budibase, is the concept of views. And you'll probably be used to views from the likes of Airtable. With Budibase, it's similar, but slightly different. And the best way to think about it is it's like a virtual table. So with a database, you don't really want to be digging about the data within a table, right? It's important, and it can ultimately take down your web app. So views allow you to abstract that data into a safe environment so that you can tinker with it, per se. So right now, I'm just going to create a table, and maybe I'll call it San Francisco. So I'll just call it San Fran. I'll save this view. I'm going to create a filter, and ultimately what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter the data from this table and say that I only want to present the data which has a location of San Francisco. So I will do filter, and I will choose location equals and that will filter that data down. I can take this a step further, and I can do calculations as well. So I could calculate the statistics of value, which would then give me the sum, min, max, count, and summary and average of our San Francisco records. And then I can then pull that data in to our front end as well. And I can also group this by, for example, deal. And now I can see that, well, it's just giving the same information as the value, but it's, if I have more details. Hey. That doesn't normally happen when I create views or groups, but it's a nice side effect. You don't get that with Budibase for free. It's a premium feature. But right, okay, so we've structured our data, and we can also, remove this as well if we please. But we've structured our data, and the beauty of Budibase is all about simplicity, but also saving you tons of time, right? And how we do this, and one of the ways we do this really well, is that we auto-generate screens for you. So as you can see, the design UI, and this is where you would build your user interface with pre-composed blocks. But on the left-hand side, you can see here that there's a lot of different screens. And the reason why these screens have been created is because we auto-generate them from the tables in the back end. For example, we know that you have a deals table, and we are smart enough to understand and to create this deals new table, which is a form which is linked to your actual deals list, which is there. So we can pull that information in, and now once you create that deals new form, it will update that table. We also provide you with a detail screen where you can go in and edit the data from each row as well. And we can change this around. So I'm just going to go into our home screen here and change this. What we have here is a Rick Astley video. So everybody gets Rickrolled by default. But what we can do here is just delete this. And we can add a chart, for example. Chart's one of the most popular components which people use. So I'll use it. So we'll go to deals. We'll select deals. We'll select our label as deal, and we'll select our column as value. And we can create really pretty charts, which we can add legends, or we can add data labels if you please, and we can get quite creative with that there, and create a gradient too. And there's a lot more that you can do around that, and there's a ton of components up here as well, which are all quite handy in their own right, depending on what you're trying to achieve with the platform. It's also super simple to add new data and just basically change the design of most of the things in the platform. For example, if I went to background and I decided that actually ballet slipper is not what I want, I prefer black noir as my background, I can go back into home, go here, potentially change this to and then we can go in here and actually change the typography as well. And there's a lot of different settings here which you can utilize as well. Probably shouldn't have used that dark of a background, so I'll go back in here and change this slightly as well. And this should be better actually. I think this will look a lot better. And we'll back to head. You can play around with this for a long time, as you can probably tell, and you can get lost, but it's fun work, so it is. Okay, that's looking a bit better. And we'll change the chart. Sorry. And we'll set this as a gradient. And I think that looks pretty. We can then add automations to our software as well, which is pretty simple. And I'm sure you'll be familiar with the user interface. So with a CRM, I'm trying to think of an automation to use. We could email ourselves a notification to say, hey, a new deal has been added to your CRM. So we'll look at this. New deal, email actually. And we will select the trigger. And we'll say when a row is saved, we'll select the table. And we'll select deals in this case. We'll save that, and then we will say send an email. Budibase is integrated with SendGrid. I sort of don't want to add my SendGrid API key right now because, because it could cost us a lot of money. But ultimately what happens here is you would set your SendGrid API key and you complete these fields with your email information. So, hey, you've just received a new deal. And then you would save the automation, click play, and then that would be automated. So every time a new deal is added to your table, you're pinged an email. And it's pretty simple. We also have webhooks as well, so that you can pull data in trigger workflows and also push data out. And
we can show some more sort of advanced use cases with automations later on if people are interested. There's we can talk to Integromat and Zapier and different things, as well as there's contextual awareness between the workflow blocks as well. So you're able to use the result of a previous workflow block in like subsequent ones after that.
Yeah, Marty is a lot more first around this than I am, and he would be able to provide a better demonstration specifically around the automation side of things. That would be great, Marty, actually. So I'm just going to click preview here, and hopefully, yay. By default, you're provided with a login screen. You can customize this like the interface within the private side of your application. But as you remember, I created a login at the start. I'm just going to log into my app now. And hey, there we go. There's our beautiful chart outlining the different values for each of our deals. There's our deals there. We can play around with this. We can filter it. We can say, and whatnot. And we can create new deals. So, let's say 100 no code. I'll give you 18. I'm just going to do test for the rest of these. So. And it's all connected together. And that goes for each of the tables which we've created, thankfully. Yeah, was that a good enough demo for now? It was pretty quick, I know, but I think it sort of touches on the different interfaces, and as Marty said, that we can dig deeper into areas. There's just a lot to show, and it's hard, you know, to try and demo something that's so big. Really?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, this is brilliant. Yeah, maybe I'm sure some of the questions will try and we'll touch on the automation stuff. But yeah, that was great. Looks awesome. Happy to just open it up now, and maybe one of the questions does go into sort of a deeper demo of the automation stuff. But yeah, let's see how we go. I know, Luke, you normally have many questions, so feel free to leap on.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So to be fair, my questions are mostly marketing, maybe somewhat marketing oriented, but we'll undoubtedly get to the tool as well. I was wondering, are you guys consciously choosing, and if so, what's the reason behind that decision to ride the wave of no-code/low code marketing?
Do you want me to answer that? I'll take that. By the way, thank you, Luke, for asking.
Yeah, by the way, thank you too. That was probably one of the smoothest demos I've seen in a good while. You prepared it very well. No,
trust me, I did not prepare that. That tool does me a lot of justice compared to, like, if I was said to Marty about 20 minutes before this call, I should probably prepare this demo. Well, thankfully, Budibase does a lot of the work for me, so it's very kind. But I specifically want to thank you for asking a question around marketing, because usually when we're having conversations with a lot of people, it's mostly around the technical side of things, and I'm sitting there, you know, just dumbfounded really, and ham-fistedly approaching different questions with really awkward answers. But yes, we initially started off low code, and as we explored the industry, we found the problem was experienced by the majority of people who signed up. The major problem was that they could not code, and they could not build web applications that way. And actually, we started out as a SaaS builder as well. So the idea was, you went on to Budibase. It was a low-code platform which allowed you to build SaaS applications. Now, it's the life of a startup is long and windy, and it, you know, touches base on multiple different, like, sort of like, there's many different crossroads, and where we're at right now is we went down the sort of no code path, and we're edging towards low code again, and I'll tell you why. We are a local builder and we're open source, and we find that developers are loving this because they can access the code. They're used to working and building web apps. Actually, they do not want to build web apps in the cloud. That's simply, they're used to building web apps locally with their IDE. And that's why we're sort of moving towards local again. Also, there is a level of, one of the hardest things about building a tool like this is balance. Everything's about balance. It's about, you're abstracting over a lot of code, and once you abstract, sometimes you lose that flexibility. And we live by the saying that, you know, we want Budibase to be simple by default. And I think, as you've seen by the platform, There are really simple foundations there. But ultimately, what we want people to do is to write code on top of Budibase. So you can ultimately have a window open with Budibase on the side, and you can write code that could change it within it. That's what we want to get to, but we want it to be extensible as possible as well. So marketing that is proven tricky because we've just took so many turns. But right now, the best way to describe Budibase is a visual development platform for building business applications. So we don't want to tag our platform as no code, low code, or anything code. Code is important. We love code, but we just want to apply a visual element to it. And that's what we're all about.
Thank you.
I think over time as well, as you said, like, the platform is very simple and easy to use. Now, getting developers on and helping us out, building the community around that, we feel like as people are able to add new components, new integrations, and new data sources, as developers can contribute to that community. As time goes on, the platform, so long as we keep that builder part that Joe demoed there, like quite easy to use, and make the platform, like, to the side of it really extensible, we feel like it'll only become more accessible to people who can't code, because you will have this big ecosystem of open source templates and plugins, so you won't need to reach us for code as the community grows. But it's really important for us to get that developer community in at the start, and thus be really extensible from the start. So yeah, that's kind of how we're looking at things.
It also goes to, we need to serve the community in a way that it's sort of like it allows them and empowers them to be able to build against the platform. There's other platforms out there which are closed, and it's hard to build plugins, and it's hard to build a community around that, because you can't access the code, or you don't know what you're building against really. And we feel like the more open we are, the more welcoming we are, and the easier it will be to build these additional elements such as plugins and themes and templates and whatnot.
So I imagine that's probably one of the biggest reasons to go open source. Yeah,
that, and also long-term viability, right? But there's big businesses who are looking at us, like, Fortune 50 companies, and they want to know that, if we don't raise our next round, that we're not going to go bust and their apps are going to disappear. We're always going to be around. Your data. Also, more importantly, one of our missions is to empower every person and organization around the world to be able to build web applications. I worked in defense and justice, and there's not a hope in hell that we would use a cloud platform, because our data has to be stored where we need to store our data in certain places. We talk to KPMG, and they have a partnership with Azure. So if they're going to use a platform, they need to be able to take that data and host it wherever they want. And these are huge markets and a large amount of people. Also, Budibase, you can use it offline. There's places in this world where internet, it's not great. And sometimes, in some cases, there's no internet at all. We need to serve those people as well. So we built a local builder, which can, you can host your data and serve your data, and also serve these people who need this offline access.
Thanks very much for your time today. I'm sorry I was late. I might have missed the question, but could you touch a little bit more on the deployment there? Is it what sort of thing we're dealing with? Is it a PWA, or is it a native app, or
It's the app that gets produced. We actually use a framework called Svelte for our front end, and the app that gets produced by Budibase is a full-blown Svelte application. So that's what gets put out. There are plans at some point in the future to provide PWA support and sort of more mobile-friendly things, but right now it's just a full desktop web application.
So that's not a Play Store or a iOS store submission to do that. And how is that distributed then when you this Svelte app?
So when you actually deploy the Svelte app, the bundle and the binaries, they all get uploaded to our cloud provider, AWS, and stored in S3, and then you get given a domain, and then that just serves the web app directly from S3. The plans are in the future to allow people to self-host, as Joe alluded to there. So people will be able to store their JavaScript and their applications wherever they want inside their own networks and their own infrastructure.
Excellent. What about the responsiveness then of if you're deploying a single bundle, then how's that sort of handled the responsiveness?
So right now, there's certain components and layouts and things like that. We've tried to bake in as much responsiveness as we possibly can, but there's still some work to do around that. But over time, probably over the next weeks and months, we'd like Budibase apps to look just as good on mobile as they do on desktop. So it's definitely on our immediate roadmap.
I would add to that there's some other platforms that you're probably used to. The way they deal with responsiveness is slightly different. We take the approach that CSS is great and it's used by many platforms for a reason. Similar to actually Webflow in regards to we expose CSS in a way which is simplified. So you can use Flex with us, CSS Flex, which is great. Actually, I could probably share my screen here and show you how the app output it is almost like responsive by default in a sense. Now I might kick myself in the foot here, but what I'll do is I'll just quickly share, and you'll see what we mean, and that give you a better idea. That was fine.
Thank you very much.
Can you see the chart?
Just your desktop, Joe.
Oh. Right, just bear with me. Is that not working? No?
Yep, there it is.
Oh, is it working now? Yeah. Oh, cool. There you go. So you can see the way that comes in. Can you see that? No.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so we try to build components in a responsive nature, and then you position those components with Flex. But down the line, we want to create pre-composed layouts as well, so that they're responsive by default. But at the same time, you get flexibility too. So I could extract this.
There'll be things like 12 column grids and being able to control how many columns and rows and things you want, and just trying to make that as easy as possible for people to lay out individual UIs on the screen.
That's excellent. Could you just it's probably me being a bit thick, but with when you deploy an app, where's the data stored for that? So if you've got multiple users of an app, has each instance got its own database that needs to be sort of collectively kept together, or how's the data stored? Can you have multiple users from one database? Is that a possibility?
So the way that the data is stored when it comes to the app level stuff is we use a database called CouchDB, and CouchDB allows you to create lots of segregated databases very cheaply. So every app has its own individual database. So all the users for that app are stored in a database. And that's not to say each database has a different server or anything. Many databases can be stored across a single CouchDB server. So every app you create has completely segregated data. It doesn't know about all the other apps.
So I know you mentioned offline, but that was for your actual development there. So is the apps, are they available offline with this CrunchDB thing? Do you have the offline where you have internet problems and then you reconnect and the data syncs? Is that a feature?
So not right now. The apps, the way that we use CouchDB right now is really behind an API. So it's kind of like any other database. But there's obviously CouchDB is very powerful in that respect when it comes to offline syncing, you know, all that kind of thing. So as time goes on, we'd like to leverage more of the power of CouchDB and provide things like offline sync, and, you know, more of the kind of PWA level stuff that you mentioned, and provide better offline support for Budibase applications. So it's certainly on the horizon.
Excellent stuff. And one more question, if I might. The app I got in mind would require some report to be produced and prepared as a PDF or some sort of transmittable document. Is there a possibility of that with Budibase?
So not right now. It's not on our immediate roadmap either, although we have had some people ask for that functionality, and being able to send a bunch of JSON or whatever it may be and create a PDF or a report from it. We haven't given it too much thought up to this point, but you know, we'll never say never on that. I think it's something that we'll potentially look at sooner rather than later.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate all your time today. Thank you very much. That's great.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
I've got some questions, but Pierre, I wasn't sure if you had any.
I mean, awesome demo, guys. I think I talked with Martin a while back through a cuppa or something like that. So yeah. I had a first look a while ago, but I came today because I have a very oriented question where I'm working for a client where we're rethinking their CRM using Airtable and stuff like that. And they're also looking to create a platform for their users, which is kind of, you know, the CRM is the back end of the app that, you know, users would use. And I was wondering if on top of that, you know, kind of CRM created for the company, there's something that, you know, you can show to users on the other end as kind of a, you know, front end and platform they can use and have access to. Not sure it was clear.
So is the question, can I create a CRM platform, but I also want to give access to external clients, and then they can see particular views that the employees can't?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're actually working on this right now. In Budibase apps, the way that authentication works, as you maybe picked up from the demo, is that you just have a set of users, and those users can log into the app, and, you know, that's the app they see. What we've been working on is the ability to lock down individual screens to particular user roles, as well as to show different screens for different user roles. So in the example that you gave there, you might have a screen on the homepage, for example, under a root. And if you're a company user, you'll see a whole bunch of charts and data. But if you're a external client, for example, you will see a completely different screen. So you'll be able to have fairly granular control over which UIs and different things that users can see, as well as security on the back end to prevent particular operations being performed by certain users too. For example, like don't allow a client user to update a record in a particular table. So all that's coming quite soon, actually, and probably in the next release.
Good to know, because I'm creating pretty much a CRM and a platform on Bubble from scratch for this. So I'll be looking to see you know, how you guys build this.
How long has it took you so far?
I'm gonna say it's very light for now, because thank God Airtable and Bubble are kind of, you know, you can integrate them with the plugin kind of way, but there's tons of limitations. And you know, creating those interface that you guys create with the grids and tables and graphs, it takes forever, and I don't want to spend hours on design. So this looks terrible, but probably already a couple of weeks of doing this, and still running into limitations that I don't find solutions to. So I'm kind of, you know, selling a light platform for now, and we'll see what they want more in details and where this goes.
Yeah, it would be good to know just more about that as well. I know around the limitations, because as you can see, how much I spent, maybe 13, 15 minutes on that. You know, and I got so far.
Yeah.
We sort of need to, you know, as we get bigger, we need to compare ourselves to other platforms. And one of the way to compare is speed and simplicity. So it's good to have use cases such as that. it took you weeks to build X, and then you went to Budibase that took you minutes. It's a really good case study.
Indeed, I'll try. Hope I'll get to try to build it on Budibase too, I guess.
Was that all, Pierre, from your side? All good.
I'm good.
Cool. Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. One was around the automation part of the platform. That looks like really similar to the way Zapier does its automations. Is that, I'm assuming that was like an inspiration, and if so, like, yeah, that's a brilliant idea, because that's probably the easiest way to like do logic.
It's the way I think of it is like, it's not fully Zapier, but at the same time it's almost like the simplicity of Zapier with the power of Integromat is sort of like the idea, but at the same time it's only one part of our platform as well. But like I did not describe it or demo it in its best light. I do think Marty could do a ton better than me, partly because I'm only getting my head around webhooks. We call it Joe code, which is like, we want to get a level where, never mind no code, no code. If Joe can do it, then everyone should be able to do it. And this here part is I'm only just learning. So Marty, would be an idea if you could just demo maybe?
Sure. Yeah, I can jump into. I'll just show a quick automation to talk to Integromat and put data into a Google Sheet or something. Would that be?
That'd be great. Yeah,
good? Okay, cool. Sounds good. So I've got the Budibase app here with a CSV that I've uploaded with around 1,000 records. So the screens and everything have been created, but I've got this automation here. So if I have a look at these steps, whenever a row is added to the sales table, which we saw just there, then I want to trigger an Integromat scenario.
Do you want to show your screen?
Oh, yeah, I'm sitting there.
I can see everyone's faces being like, show your screen, Marty.
Can everyone see this? Okay.
Great.
I'll do. So I'll go through that again. We'll have this sales table here in our backend, and I uploaded a CSV to populate this. So there's around 1,000 records in it. And we're going to set up an automation here to write a row into a Google Sheet whenever I add a row to the sales table. And when I add a row to the sales table, that can either be through the builder itself, just by going to the data sort of backend part here, or that could be through the actual deployed Budibase application itself. So automations run regardless really of where you save that data. So this one here, we've set up a step to trigger this automation whenever a row is saved to the sales table. And we're going to then trigger an Integromat scenario from there. So anyone who's used Integromat and has used a webhook will know that Integromat allows you to set up webhooks through HTTP, and you can hit that webhook and then run further steps in your Integromat scenario. So it gives you a URL to actually hit for your webhook. So what I've done here is I take that URL and go back into Budibase and paste it. So Budibase knows which webhook to hit whenever a row is saved. We can then fill out some input values here. Now, webhook integrations in Integromat are quite basic in that they just give you like a bunch of fields where you can input value 1, input value 2, and you fill those out. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it in Budibase, where you either just fill out a static value here, or you can use values from either previous workflow steps or from various models in your application. So if we just click this little pencil icon here, we're binding a value here to be written into our Google Sheet with this seal width, and then we use this syntax here with the curly brackets, and that basically just denotes a variable or a value from another workflow step. So what we're using here is the region from the seal that's being saved. And in the back end here, you can see that every value has a region associated with it. So we want to take that value and write into the Google Sheet, seal with the region has been added. We hit done. And this is already activated, but you usually hit this little play button up here on the right. So we go into the app and we then create a new row, and we call this weird. And I think we can just create that. And then that'll write into the Google Sheet there. So you can see right now with our automations, we do have quite a few actions around creating rows and doing various Budibase things, but we've also pretty exponentially increased the power of the automations by hooking into some of the existing sort of giants in this space, you know, Integromat and Zapier. The plans in the future, as Joe and Mike alluded to earlier, are to allow people to create their own automation blocks through code, and you can then pull these into your builder. So this is particularly useful for, you know, integrating with proprietary software or putting together a particularly deep integration into some existing piece of infrastructure that you may already have in your organization. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. No, thanks for showing that. That's really interesting and powerful. So no, thank you. And I just had a couple more questions, I guess similar to Luke's in a sense, but around like, what do you see Budibase's biggest application being for the no-code community? I'd be interested in what use cases you think no-coders like specifically will be using it for, and I guess there's a whole cross-section of no-coders in that category, but just generally what you're seeing that audience to be using Budibase for would be really interesting.
Yeah. Mike, do you want to go ahead then? Sorry, I seen yours.
I seen me light up. Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, like as you said, we're building for more business use cases. Now, a lot of it will be internal business use cases, but as we also talked about there as well, there's no reason why these can't be externally facing as well. But yeah, mostly internal. But if we sort of, what we know about is the kind of things that people are creating are lots of sales type things, so sales and deals, like the CRM type use cases, lots of equipment management, and like employee tables and things like that. So all the things that you can really imagine that a business would run by, just the internal business data, just managing that data, where that's sort of opposed to the likes of Bubble, where you see a lot of things like directories, job directories, and you know, build an Airbnb style of thing. So it's a bit more consumer focused. So yeah, I'm not sure that answers your question, but
I would add to that and say that anything that you can build in Airtable, you could build with Budibase plus a UI on top of it, and then, you know, automations built in. That's generally the idea of it. You know, Airtable is for business applications, right? It's Excel, but a database. That's exactly the same. We're another layer on top of that with the UI and web apps.
That's really useful to know. Yeah, no, thanks for that, Michael and Joe. Cool. Yeah, that's all my questions. Yeah, before we wrap up, I guess just like to ask if there's any other questions from people. Luke?
Yeah, again with the marketing question. If I've interpreted it correctly, then I'm not sure to call it your mission or vision, but one of the things that you seem to value is helping many people develop software. One of the risks that you run into when you want to become everything or the builder for everyone is that you'll end up becoming nothing for everyone or nothing for nobody, but well, that sounds stupid. How will you guard against that?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. In the same sense that like we are for everyone, we do have a clear focus on who we want to have as customers. And they are businesses, and specifically we want to take a bottom-up approach to moving up the ladder in regards to SMBs, the enterprise, and we want to go through developers and more IT professionals within companies, and that's who we're targeting with this product, hence the business application aspect of it. But at the same time, Joe, we're an open source platform, so we're open by default, right? It's just who we are, and if more people can use this, then the better. And plus a vision's long term, right? It's 10 years from now, so
of course, yeah.
They're quite fluffy, but at the same time, you know, visions can change.
I understand.
Yeah, we sort of as well. We talk about developers and non-developers a lot. I mean, as you'll see, sort of there, we're not trying to abstract too much on top of web development there. So the people that whenever you say developer can mean a front-end developer who doesn't know the back-end, a back-end developer who doesn't know the front-end. Could be a systems admin who doesn't really know any of it, but still pretty technical. Or also, like, as Joe said at the start, Joe builds websites. So Joe's pretty technical, even though he's not officially a professional coder. So there's just such a broad spectrum of people who we would describe as technical, and even the kind of people who are in the no code space who piece together Webflow, Zapier, Airtable. I mean, that's quite hard to do. Like, I would even class those people as quite technical, because it does require some basic understanding of how the web works. So yeah, if you want to go like totally non-technical, I think Glide's the easiest thing to use out there, and that's like the real no code. Even Bubble, which is like the quintessential no code product, it's really technical. It's hard to use, and you do need to have a fundamental understanding. So people who with technical knowledge in general are like just people who understand how the web works, are a good fit. And obviously if you're a developer, you'll get the most out of it because you'll be able to extend it.
Yeah, thanks so much. And knowing that one of your most important target audiences is businesses, and moving up to I always get the abbreviation wrong because in Dutch it's a different one, but small medium enterprise or small medium businesses. Am I correct in observing that you might be a competitor to Retool then? How would you diversify or distinct from Retool?
Well, I don't know if you want to answer this, Mike, but I'm sure we're all chopping at the bit to answer this because
yeah, I noticed.
we get a lot of attention. Retool 2 years ago raised £1 million. 2 weeks ago they were worth 1 billion. And we get a lot of attention saying, are you use the open source Retool? Because that makes a lot of sense, right? Internal applications, your internal nature of your business holds really sensitive data, right? It's the internals. It would be good to be able to host that ourselves. So how do we differ? Number one, we output real software. What you've seen is on a URL. It's a single page application. Retool outputs this unresponsive little tool. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a page. It's only one page really, and it's got like little diagrams. So we have a lot more customization in regards to design, and also, as you can see, we're a lot easier to use, and that comes from our no-code nature, moving to no-code. And it's actually, we were like, oh no, it might be a disadvantage, but it's actually been a major advantage, because as Mike would normally say, he's a developer 15 years, he finds Retool hard to use. And also we're open source, and that's one of the major advantages. On top of that, developers, and I've already mentioned this point, Retool is targeted at developers. We're going to be targeted at developers. Developers want to build locally. They don't want to build in cloud software, especially when you're managing large amounts of data. So there are a number of ways which we differentiate from Retool, and they're good as well.
I think one other thing just to touch on around that too is that with Retool, it's really it's really a front end more than anything, where you point it to data sources that you already have. So if you have a Postgres database running somewhere and some other data sources, you can hit all those and put together a nice dashboard and hack that data together. We have our own built-in database as well as those external data sources too. So you can actually build a full product or a full tool in Budibase without any external sources. You might just want to build a CRM and create your own tables and upload some CSVs. You don't necessarily want to pull data from some database that you already have. So it's a bit more self-contained in that way, where you don't need to have a bunch of infrastructure already to get value out of the tool.
Thank you so much.
If you look across the spectrum, and I'm sure a lot of you have, you will notice there's like these no-code tools, and then there's like the retool and stuff, and then there's these like really big players who are like super expensive, right? You look at them, you're like, oh, OutSystems, Mendix seems really cool. How much are they charging? That's incredible. We're actually pretty close to those platforms as well in regards to how our platform looks and feels, but we obviously don't charge an arm and a leg, and the UX and UI is probably a lot more modern, let's say.
Yeah. No, thanks for clearing that up. But yeah, I think we've hit the hour. Is there anything you guys would like to say before we wrap this up? It's been great to have you guys on here.
Yeah, just thanks very much for having us. We're working hard to get the platform into a place where it will not just benefit users, but users will absolutely love it. And we look to launch in January. So our ask to you is to help us around that launch and help promote the product and help get people onto it, because one of our main objectives over the next few months is to build a community, and a strong community at that. Because with a good community, we can overtake the likes of retail and whatnot. But yeah, so I'll probably reach out to you guys then and be like, hey, like all our posts and help us out.
No, sure, absolutely, please do. Yeah, we'll be up for that. Yeah, thanks. Cool. Well, thanks so much, guys. Yeah, hopefully, see you on another AMA or workshop, later down the line when you've launch your product and you've got more features and all that. And I'm sure you're only just getting started. So yeah, exciting times ahead. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye.